Hi, I'm Lonnie Bush of Airbush One Studio, and today I want to show you how to use this random write-on rig I created. You can download it from my website, airbush1.com. Before we get started, I want to show you some type animation presets that ship with Cinema 4D that you may not be aware of. If you go into your content browser and under presets, come down to broadcast and then down to presets, open that up, and come down to type animation. You can see that there's a couple of folders in there, animate in, animate out. Let's take a look in the animate in folder. And there's quite a few presets, and it's a good way to get some type animated quickly. So let's have a look at this randomized preset. So if I double click that, opens up a new document and quickly starts playing. And you can see that it's shifting these letters in X space, but I wanted I wanted a rig to do more than that. I wanted it to change in different letters and symbols and glyphs and things. But I did want you to know about these presets because they are kind of cool. So let's have a look at the random write-on rig. So if I click this in the Object Manager and select the Control tab, you can see there's quite a few things going on here, and we're going to go over everything. But to actually get started, you want to come up to your MoText object in the Object Manager and double click, and this is where you'll put in the message that you want to show up on the screen. So I'm going to just put caps on and type in glitchy type for now. Okay? Let's have a look at the basic functions. So at the top here you see type on at frame and type off at frame. So right now it's set to 0 and 90. And if I play this, you see the type is on there and it's on throughout the whole thing. But if we change this, let's say to 10 and 80, okay, now the type isn't even going to appear on screen until frame 10 and then disappear at frame 80. And this allows you a lot of flexibility to change the type on and type off time without a bunch of keyframes. Then we have the start random write-on at frame 10 and stop random write-on at 45. So all this is pretty self-explanatory. But you can see at frame 10 this transition starts, and at frame 45 we have our message. So if we change this to 20, transition is going to start at 20, but you see what happens here. The type is still going to come on at 10. So for 10 frames there will be no animation. Then the transition starts right at 20, goes to 45, and we have our message. Next is one of the fun parts, the input random alphabet. And here you can type in numbers, glyphs, symbols, and as you can see I've got a bunch of them in here. So let's just type in a few more. Lowercase, uppercase, numbers, as I said, just about anything. And spaces add some cool randomness in too. But I will caution you that if you use symbols or punctuation or anything that's not part of the typeface that you've chosen, you will get some quirky behavior. Anyway, you can see something that's happened already, and that is we get to 45 and our transition has not happened completely. And that's because we've got more glyphs in here than the time we've allowed. So it's easy to fix. You can go down right under it is the fit entire input random alphabet. And if we start going up, just clicking the numbers up a little until you've got your whole message at 45. So now it works perfectly. Likewise, let's say we shorten this to about half. And I'm just going to copy and delete that. Then if we go back through, you see our transition is finishing way before frame 45. So let's go back up to frame 44. And let's see. Take this way down. down there. And then just click it back up. Should be one under, so that when it hits 45, there. So that's the way to use that fit entire random alphabet. Of course, you can always change your start and stop time of your transition. But if you have that set, this fit the entire alphabet makes it easy to keep your layout the way you want it and make everything work. So let's have a look at these list of behaviors. So we're going to go through these kind of quickly. The first is a 0 as kind of default, is just to energize, which we've been looking at. And so if we go to 1, it's stutter. And so I tried to give these names that kind of give an idea what they do. They all look a little similar, but they are all different. So if we play this through, you can see it stutters. It kind of stops and starts. And we might actually get, I'm going to paste in some of that I took out before, so we get a few more letters in there. And of course now I'm going to have to quickly fix this. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now maybe we can see that it stops, it stutters. Okay, so on to the next one. Smooth. Looks a lot like energized, but there is a little difference. You can see how the letters slide in at the end. Go to 3 is slow starter. So it should start off slow and pick up speed. 4 is false readout, which means it's going to give us, looks like it stops, but then it's not right, and then it corrects itself. Okay, and then 5 is unsure, and I think in Heroes I was unsure. It's like it's trying to figure out what to do. It's a little like stutter, but it's slightly different. Anyway, I put these in so that you could even get more randomness. I'm going to go back to energized and like that. Actually, let's use smooth for a while. 2. It is different. Okay. So next down is transition between two words, which is pretty self-explanatory as well. So if I click this on, okay, we see our new word ends up after the transition. Okay. But we don't really, just barely see our transition to. It's only on the screen for a second. And that's because our start time, okay, the type on the frame, is happening at the same time that the transition is starting. So we can either change this to say 0. Now we have transition to new word. Okay? And we could even extend the length of, or shorten the length of that so that the word is on the screen longer and the transition happens faster. So let's click this transition between words off. And we're going to go down to, there's a bunch of other parameters, like glitchy kind of parameters down below that we're going to go through. So let's start with tracking. Pretty obvious, tracking. Okay, and so what this does is that tracking is applied, and then when the transition starts, and I'm going to put that back to 20 so we can see, or 10 rather, the transition start. What that tracking does is it tracks throughout the transition so that when it starts, where are we? Tracking is at 120, so if we put that to say 50, okay, and then as it transitions, it's going to pull back in to 13, or we can put 100 in there. So that actually expands as it goes through. Next, we have the glitch jump up and down, and I'm going to turn off transition, although I do want to say you can use all this together, but I want to turn that off so we can just look at one thing at a time. So if I enable the glitch jump up and down, okay, you can see a little bit. Let's exaggerate that. So now these work a little different than the tracking, and all these glitches work. You can set the frame for when you want it to start. So if you want the glitchiness to happen before, let's see, that should, oh yeah, let's start that at 0. So now it's going to glitch for as long as you want, and it can it will glitch longer than the transition if you set these at different times. So let's set this at 75. Okay, and the amount of glitch, we're going to exaggerate that so we can see it better. Okay, so now we're going to get glitchiness and then transition and glitch. Pretty cool effect, a lot of fun. So let's have a look at this jump side to side glitch. So this start is set to frame 50, so that means nothing's going to happen until we get to 50, okay, which is cool because then you've got this little thing that happens after the transition. All right, so let's play that in real time. So it looks like it's done and boom. So that's one way to use it. You can set this down to 0 and have this thing going when you start. And you get a cool little thing at the end. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Go to glitch and Z, same kind of thing. And so if we wanted to set that to, say, 60, just to add that little extra at the end, that's kind of cool. And you could animate this down. Say, I'll just show you real quick. So let's say our type at 45, it's been at 500, but now, say at 50, we want it to be just 50% starting there. So now when we play it, the effect after our transition ends should be much more subtle. Okay, something happened. I think I messed up. Nope. Oh, I know what happened. Let's put this down to 0 or 10. Okay, now the transition starts, it goes crazy, and then we just get this little thing at the end. So anyway, that's just some ways to work with that. And lastly, of course, if you want to have some delay, I did put that in there. And so if we enable that and put that, you can see what's going on, the different types, and then the strength of that. Put it back to even. Kind of nice. Smooths things out. Just depends on what you're looking for. So one last thing I want to show you is, first I'm going to get rid of this keyframe. If you shift control click on that, you remove the keyframes, and I'm going to just disable this. So let's say that you want to have this type be on the screen, transition, or let's set that back to 10. So it comes on when it starts the transition. So it comes on at frame 45, it transitions, but then it stays on there. So, it went off. So let's put that to 90. All right, so it stays on for that full 90. But what if you want to have it come on, finish its transition, but then transition out? Okay, so let me show you how to do that if you haven't already figured it out. So if we go to 79, frame 79, and I'm going to put a keyframe for start and stop, and I'm going to move one frame, so to 80, and here we're going to start at 80, and we're going to stop, of course, at 90. All right, so now when we play this, we get glitchy type, and it starts to transition out. So it all looks like it's working right, but I do want you to be aware of this. If we go up to frame 90, you see the type is trying to come back on. And that's because we've ended the transition, okay, too soon. So we need to go beyond, let's say 105. And now we have our randomness again. So if I click that, all right, and then let's add in 120 frames instead of 90, and then play it. So now it'll remain random until the type goes off. So that's about it for how the random write-on rig works. But you'll still want to go into your object manager or the object tab of the glitchy type. And this is where you'll change, your font and everything just like you normally would with a MoText object. So I'm going to go in here and change this to just Lithos Pro. Okay, and then make it a little bigger. And anything you do in here does not affect what you've got set up. And so I'm going to even change the horizontal spacing. So even if you have tracking set up, the tracking is going to be based off of what you've set here. Of course, we don't have tracking turned on. No, that's just the normal tracking. But if we did go back in here and let's say turn tracking on, so now it's going to transition just the same way it did, just what we have set up. And then you see our random glitch out. So that's where you set, just like you normally would, all of that stuff. So that's about it. But I did want to show you, if you're not familiar with how to put it in the content browser, it makes it easy to just click it into a scene. I'm going to undock this content browser, and I'm going to go here up to File and create a new preset library, and I'm just going to put random right on, put whatever, you'll remember it best. And then you just drag this, I've got glitchy type. And so that's going to show up as glitchy type, all right? So now, when you come back and say you start a new scene, File, New, and got to go up because I didn't dock it again. Content browser. Let's stick that back in there. And so now, we've got the random write on glitchy type. You double click it in, and that's about it. Hope you have as much fun with this rig as I've had. So until next time, thanks for watching, and see you soon.